Good morning and welcome. I'm Jeff Walton, the Executive Director for the American Association of Christian Schools. The workshop topic this morning is Google Classroom, a crash course. I want to introduce our instructor and then very quickly turn it over to him. Today's instructor is Dr. David Warren. Dr. Warren is a Google certified instructor who has presented many times on using Google Classroom, including several AACS summer classes on using G Suite for Education. Last summer, we recorded those sessions as Dr. Warren taught, and we have posted the links to those recordings on our website. We have a new tab on our website as of yesterday afternoon. Unfortunately, our national competition had to be canceled, and we've temporarily replaced our competition tab with COVID-19 resources tab. One of the things under that tab will be the links to 2 5-hour classes on using Chromebooks and G Suite for Education that Dr. Warren taught. There's normally a $40 professional development fee associated with those. We've waived that fee and made them available to you, but that's a deep dive into this topic. And a few days ago, I received some contacts from people who said, is there a way we could get a crash course? And I thought immediately of Dr. Warren. If anybody was able to give a crash course, it would be Dr. Warren. Google Classroom would be our number one recommendation for how you move things online. And so just a couple of days ago, I contacted Dr. Warren. I asked him if he thought he could do a 1-hour crash course and if he was willing to do that, and he graciously agreed. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we'll have a webinar that will cover some more general information about moving instruction online, and we'll have a segment about using Zoom in that process. That will be this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Without any further comment from me, I'm going to introduce Dr. Warren and let him have the rest of the class.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I trust that if you have your school is going to be remote distance learning like everyone else in the country, I'm guessing that's why you're here. And so what we're going to do is in this next hour is quickly just overview Google Classroom. I want to say up front that if your school has not already signed up with G Suite for Education, what we're doing here will work, and it's a workaround. But I'll explain to you different times throughout our time together how things would function a little bit differently if we were in G Suite. But I'm not going to worry about those details as much because we just want to get you up and running and understand the product and be able to use it immediately. But there are some things you need to be aware of going long term. So I'm going to go in here and figure out, I'm going to share my screen. So if you don't know where to go to get to Google Classroom, you're going to go to classroom.google.com. And if you go there, you're going to get a screen like this. I am using an account that is a personal account. It's not associated with any school. I don't have G Suite for Education with this account. I've intentionally gone to a blank slate. So when you first sign up for Google Classroom, this is the blank slate that you should see. And so I'm going to start at the very, very beginning. When you first sign up for Google Classroom with a Gmail account, not with a school account, it's going to give you a warning. It's going to say that if you are using Google Classroom in a school environment with students, you should be using G Suite. The reason for that warning is this. In all states, there are some privacy issues around students. And there's certain regulations that the schools have to follow when they're using technology with students. And Google Classroom, when signed up through G Suite, through an education account, all of those student accounts maintain those different requirements. Some of those being privacy and tracking of their whereabouts and movement throughout Google and what things they're looking for and searching and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's one of the reasons. The other is tracking of communication and storing of that information for historical records and such. It's doing all of that for those student accounts in a proper way under the management of your school. Where when you do it this way, there's none of that taking place. It's just a tool that you're using. So long term, you'd want to be aware of that. In the short term, of course, you want to get it up and running and get things going in that fashion. So you have this blank slate. Up in the right-hand corner, I have this plus sign. This is where I'm going to create my first class. Google Classroom is basically a management tool. So you can manage the sending of information to your students and the receiving of information from your students, obviously in the form of homework and assessments. So we're going to just click this and we're going to create a class. We don't want to join a class. We want to create a class. And so when I create my class, it's going to give me this message that I warned you about. It says using Classroom at a school or university with students. It gives me this warning, say I'm supposed to be using a G Suite for Education account if I'm doing this with students. So it says, I've read, I understand that. And you're going to have to, in your own conscience, click that and say, I'm going to go ahead and create a class. So the class name, you're going to name it whatever you desire. I would recommend if you're using this with a elementary school, even maybe junior high school, depending on the size of your school, that you create a class for your fourth grade, right? You don't create a class for science and history and math and all of the different subjects at this point. You create a class based upon the grade you're teaching. If you're teaching in the high school level, and you teach multiple science classes or multiple math classes or those things, then you would do the class name based upon the subject. But if you're one teacher managing all of the subjects like in an elementary school, then I would suggest you use a grade. And I'll show you then how to break up the various materials once we get inside the classroom. So I'm going to do this from a elementary perspective first. And so I'm going to create the class. Section, subject, room, none of those are necessary. Obviously, those are to give more details about the particular class. If you had multiple sections of a class, if you're a biology teacher with 3 sections, you could say biology, section 1, section 2, section 3, or section 10 a.m., section 1 p.m., so whatever. You can put in other information as you choose to. I'm just going to go simple, 4th grade, create the class. So it will do its magic and create a class for me. It pulls up this 4th grade class. I'm not going to worry about what's new in Classroom right now. It selects an image, and if you're on the run and you got to get this done, you just keep going. If you want to, you can come over here and you can select a different picture. If you want a picture that works better for your classroom, you could pick one and choose the one that you like, select the class theme, and it will change it for you. You can also upload your own photo. Again, one of the nice things inside of Google Classroom is pretty much the buttons tell you what they're going to do. So it says select theme and upload photo. It doesn't take much for you to figure out what to do inside of Google Classroom. In fact, here it says share something with your class, so you could guess what that's for. We'll get to that in a second. The next thing you're going to want to do once you have a class is you need students in your class. Right now you have set up a holding place, but you now need to add students to your class. So we're going to go over here to people, and you can invite students in a couple of ways. Because you're not doing this through a G Suite for Education account, you won't be able to search for all of your students. If you use this with your school and your school has already assigned email addresses to all of your students, you would actually just be able to click here and you could search for all of the students from your school's database. It would auto-populate all of your students' accounts. But you're probably not in that situation if you're here at this moment. You're doing this from scratch And you may not even know all of your students' email addresses. If you know all of your students' email addresses, the parents have given those to you, you can enter their email addresses here and it will invite them all to join your class. If you don't have their email addresses, which you probably don't in this case, the kids were at school one day and then the next you were told, don't come back. And then your principal said, we're going to use Google Classroom. Let's learn it. Let's get up to speed. And then now I need to add my students to my class. That's what this class code is for. You're going to want to send an email or some communication to all of the students in your class, and you're going to give them that code. And you're going to tell the students that they need to go to the same place you did, classroom.google.com. But instead of that button there, when I go over here to classes, when I click the plus button, they're going to click join class. And they're going to enter that code right there. So instead of creating a class, they're going to join a class. Enter your code, and when they do that, that student gets added to your class. So I'm going to go back into my fourth grade class. My code is right here. I am going to copy this code, and I'm going to go into my other Google Classroom account, the one I actually use at school, and I'm going to join the class as a student. And the code isn't valid. So what did I copy wrong? Let's see. It may not like it because it's not within my school domain, but let's try again. It may not let me join this particular class with this particular account because it's a non-school account, I'm guessing. It's not going to let me do it. So with my Google Classroom set up through G Suite for Education, it only lets me join other classes in my school domain. I can't join that class right now. That's the issue there. Your students won't have that issue because they're signing in from their own Gmail accounts. So you'll email that code to your students. They'll enter it like I did over there, like I tried to show you. When they enter that code, it'll add those students into your class. All right, and so they will then populate here. One of the nice things that happens once you have your students populated, I'm going to pull up one of my classes and show you what it looks like. So here's my students. One of the nice things that it allows me to then do is I can click either individual students or I can click here and it selects all of my students. And then I can from there email my class. So if your school quickly went to Google Classroom and distance learning, once your students sign up for your class and they're inside your class, you can now email them communication through Google Classroom, and you have all of their email addresses right here. And I'm guessing in some of your cases, you don't have that information for all of the students' email addresses. You hopefully have some email addresses for parents in the office, but this is the student, not the parent. I also need to warn you that the parents need to be careful. It can work, but it can become cumbersome if one parent uses their email address to sign up all 4 of their children for all of their classes in Google Classroom, because all of those accounts then are going to be under one umbrella, and that can get kind of messy. The recommendation is going to be to go to Gmail and create a Gmail account for each of the students in the home. That's going to be the best case scenario. They can, of course, have the password to that and monitor it and all of those concerns, but it's going to be a much easier and smoother thing for both the parents, the student, and the teachers if there's individual email accounts. You can do it otherwise, but it just gets a lot messier. And the name for that student is going to be the wrong name potentially because it's going to be the parent's name or the first student they signed up for. And so a lot of stuff is going to be just kind of not clean in that fashion. So this is where all of your students will show up in the people stream. Let's look at classwork. And I want to talk about very, very simply, I'm going to try to start from the most basic and then get a little more detailed as we go. But this is where we post our homework and any of those things that we're going to send out to our students. So let me show you how simple this can be and give you some confidence here. The first thing I'm going to do is I click this create button right here. I have multiple options. The one we're going to work up with right now is the assignment. I want to create an assignment. When I click create assignment, it's going to open up this menu. And in this menu, pretty much everything is pretty well labeled, so I don't have to figure out a whole lot. If you don't remember all this, when you click that, you're going to have everything in front of you. So I'm going to give my assignment a title. So let's just call this, we'll say this is like Chapter 8 Review. Instructions. In my case, I am going to ask the students to read Chapter 8 and complete the chapter review on page 78. Okay, that's my instructions. Now I could be done right now with this assignment. If the students have a textbook and they go to page 78, they can then answer those questions. Now, I've not given them any training in any of this, so there's going to need to be some communication. You might write here, use a Google Doc or other word processing program to submit your answers. What I'm asking them to do is go and read their book, answer the questions on page 78. Then they're going to type those up in a document, and then they're going to submit that as their response to this assignment. That's the basic, simple way to do this. I'm not saying it's the recommended way. I'm just showing you that that could be the entire assignment. All right, I'm going to go over here, and this is for my fourth grade students in this class. I can go over here, and if I had students listed, I could actually assign this assignment to just a few students if I don't want to assign it to the entire class. I have the option to choose which students I assign this to. If I have multiple classes where it says fourth grade, I could also assign this to different classes. I don't have to only assign it to my fourth grade class. So if you are that biology teacher that has 3 sessions of biology and they're on the same material, I could make one assignment and assign it to all 3 sessions. I'm going to put in a due date. I'm going to make this due tomorrow on Friday, and then you can put a time if you want. You don't have to, but if you wanted to have a specific time that it was due, then I could put that in there. And then this is important. You have topics. You don't have to use them, but since this is a fourth grade class, I'm going to create topics, and I'm going to create a topic for every subject. So this is going to go under, in this case, I'll say it's science. So when I create this, I want to put it into my science topic. So that's how I'm going to break my sections up. So I'm going to assign this. I'm going to leave it as is, and then I'll show you again. We're going to layer this and add more and more to it. I'm sure there's already questions. This is a starting point. So I click assign. And now this assignment will show up in all of the students' Google Classrooms. When they log in, they will see Chapter 8 Review, and it's due tomorrow. And it's under the topic. If they click the topic Science, it will show up here under Science. Okay? So let's go here, and I'm going to create another assignment. We got it. And this assignment I am going to say is chapter, I am not doing well in the typing, chapter 6 worksheet. Okay. I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to click the paperclip down here. And now under the chapter 6 worksheet, I'm going to actually include the worksheet. So instead of just saying do the questions on page 78 and expecting them to find a way to type them up and submit them as the homework, I'm going to actually give them a document. So I can click my Google Drive because I created this and put it inside of my Google Drive. Now, if you don't have Google Drive, you do. You just don't know it. If you have a Gmail account, you have a Google Drive. And in that, you can go to Google Docs and you can create documents. Again, this is a crash course, so you might want to study up on that. But you say, hey, I've got a worksheet that I typed up in some other format. You can still use that format. You're going to go to Add instead of Google Drive. You're just going to go to File. And when I click File, it's going to let me select files from my computer. And I can look all around my computer and I can upload any type of file type here into Google Classroom. So I can use a Microsoft Word document. It doesn't have the same full functionality as we'll talk about in a little bit later, but it will allow me to share that Word document with all of my students so that they can read it and see the assignment and do some of those things. So I can share that. I'm going to click Add, Google Drive, and I've created this sample assignment. All right. And it gives me, by the way, in that little box, a reminder of some of the things I'm going to say right now. Right now, this sample assignment, okay, which is just this document that I created earlier, sample assignment. In this sample assignment, I could write a bunch of questions, right? I could write whatever I want to create this worksheet for my students inside of Google Docs, okay? So you're going to create a document. You're going to put some questions in there. You're going to put whatever you want inside of this. And that's what I'm sharing with my students here in Google Classroom. I have some options. It says students can view the file. What that means is they can look at it. They can't manipulate it in any way or do anything with that Google Doc. They're just looking at it. I can have the students edit the file. That means that all of your students that you share this with, in this case, my fourth grade class, every fourth grade student in my class that I share this assignment with can edit the same file, all editing one file at the same time. You don't typically want that. What you want is make a copy for each student. So this is really parallel to going to the copy machine with your worksheet that you've created, push copy for however many students are in your class, making those copies, walking into class and handing out a copy to every single student. That's what's going to take place when you click make a copy for each student. That's what you want to be doing, okay? So you're going to make the copy for each student. You're going to pick a due date when you want this homework turned in by. You can pick points, but you don't even have to do that. You could still grade it separately and not worry about the points, which is what happens in most cases because your grade book is going to continue to be wherever it is in your school. You're not going to move your grade book to Google Classroom in this emergency distance learning situation. So just think about that. You don't need to worry about the points on the assignment. So we're going to go to topics. I'm going to create a new topic. I'm going to call this topic English. We'll say this is an English assignment. I'm going to assign it. I assigned a different topic because I want you to see that when I fill in my topics, now your students will have English. They can go here to see their English, click here, and they'll get just their science. So students can now look at each subject individually to see what they have as homework to accomplish. Okay? So let's go here back to all topics and create. And we're going to create another assignment. Okay? Now, this time, I'm going to help you with a situation that's very real for our teachers and probably very real for you as teachers. Your students have gone home. You're setting up all of their work for them. You have their workbooks in your classroom. You really don't want all of those students to come pick up all of those workbooks. And even if they do pick up all of those workbooks, they're going to then have to complete that homework and somehow deliver that homework back to the school so you can grade it or do something with it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call this, we'll go back. We'll do this as your math worksheet. We'll add another subject here. And what you're going to do, in most cases, your school has a copy machine that will, when you copy something, convert it to a PDF. You can also do that with many applications on your cell phone and other ways, but you're going to want to take those worksheet pages even some of the reading pages, perhaps in this situation where we're in remote learning, and you're going to convert those to a PDF. You're going to copy them to a PDF, or you're going to convert them somehow. So you have a PDF now of that worksheet or that whatever it is you want to send home. And then you're going to click Add, and wherever it is, if it's on your computer, you would click File. If it's in your Google Drive, if you're using your Google Drive and putting things there, you click Google Drive. So I'm going to click File just to show you, for those of you who aren't familiar with Google Drive a whole lot. And you're going to upload. So you're going to say Select Files from my device. And I have How to Pray for Missionaries. Let's just grab that PDF. It's a PDF, so that'll be fine. And I'm going to upload that. It's going to take a second. And there we have the PDF. Now, if you just have a book that you want the students to read, maybe it's their short story that they're going to read, then you can just say students can view the file. So if all this is something that was maybe for reading time and you want the students to read this PDF, then just leave it alone. If it's a worksheet you want them to actually edit, annotate, and complete, then say make a copy for each student, just like we did with the previous homework assignment. Now every student will get their own copy of this PDF worksheet to fill out and to turn back in. And I'll show you in a second what we're going to do with this. But I'm going to choose the topic again, math. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to pick a due date, next Tuesday, whatever. And I'm going to assign it. So here we go. We've assigned that math worksheet. And now we have our math and our English and our science for our fourth graders. We're getting going here. We've created some assignments. We're going to create another assignment. Again, I'm going to come back to these things and talk about what happens with these assignments and as students start to turn them in and what that's going to look like. But let's look first at creating. So I'm going to create an assignment. I call this a Bible lesson. I want to show you that you can put anything inside of Google Classroom. So I'm going to go out here to the internet. I've got my Keys for Kids devotional, right? I'm just picking this randomly. So I'm going to send to my students the link to this Keys for Kids devotional. I'm going to go to YouTube, and I am going to go to Keys for Kids, and here's a feature storyteller video. I'm going to copy the link for that video, and I can add that here, and I can go to YouTube, paste that. So I can post a YouTube video here. So if you have a YouTube video that's teaching the subject matter of some sort that you would like the kids to watch, you could potentially send that to your students. And if you've recorded your own video, perhaps you've used Screencastify or you've used some other program to record your lessons, you've been working on that, your school's asked you to record some video lessons, you can go in here and you can add those video lessons up to your classroom. So you could select those videos from wherever they are on your computer, and you could post those here as part of your assignment as well. So you can put all of these pieces so that students can view those things, and then you can, after that, then you're going to have to add whatever the assignment is. What do you want them to do with it? So that's where you could throw in an assignment there. So here's my actual Bible assignment. So make sure that Bible assignment, then you make a copy for each student. But I want you to see that you can put as many little pieces into this as you want. So if you have something for them to read, something for them to view online, something for them to watch in the form of a video that you've created or someone else created that you have the link to, you can put all of those things to build out this assignment and then have a document that has the instructions and where they actually do the work and turn that in. And we're going to want to create our topic for Bible class this time, create our due date, and then we can assign this to our students. Okay. So that's how you create basic assignments inside of Google Classroom. So that's how you can send information to your students, telling them what homework you would like them to do. So if you click this create button, you'll see you have several other options. So I'm going to tell you what these are about real quick. One is reuse post at the very bottom. You can do that if you want to reuse a post you've already created from a past class that you've archived especially. So for this year, just starting, that's not going to be all that helpful. But for me, I have classrooms for multiple years, and so I can reuse my assignments year after year and not have to reinvent everything. Material works just like an assignment. The biggest difference when I click on create material is there's no due date. There's nothing the students are returning to me. It's just me sending them information. So you might want to say, if you have a full PDF of the entire textbook, you might say up here that science textbook, right? You could put the whole textbook PDF or a link to it if it's an online textbook or different things like that. And you could post that under that topic. So I could put science textbook under the science topic. I would add some file. So this isn't really the textbook, but I'm just going to throw something in there and then post that. So now there's no assignment under science for that, but it's their textbook. It shows up that that's their textbook. So if I just want to send them some material, some information, there's nothing that they have to return to me, then I could create it as material. I can ask my students a question and get their feedback by clicking on question. I would type my question. What time is best for a live hangout meet? I could just leave it as a short answer. That means students can put whatever text they want in, or I can make it multiple choice. I could say 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Oops. Sorry. I can even down here in the question, if I want to put some other information for them, I could add here the same kind of things that I could for other things. So I could add materials, upload videos, and all that to my question. So that's where I would do that. If this question has a due date, when do I want them to answer it by? So I want them to answer this today. And I would prefer that they answered it today by 11 a.m. because that's our first opportunity if everybody's available. So I could put the time there. And this is going to be no topic because this isn't for a particular class. So I'll leave it with no topic, and I can still do that. I don't have to pick a topic. So I'll leave it with no topic, and then I'm going to ask my students that question, and they'll be able to respond. So it's right here, and I can now wait for them to answer it and get their feedback. Okay, so that's a question. And then it says quiz assignment. I wouldn't recommend using this straight from here, but you can. What it's going to do is create a blank quiz, right? And you're going to need to then go in and edit this and create a quiz. And that's a different animal we'll get to if we have a few minutes later. I'll hit this. But this is a way that you can create an assessment using Google Forms. So that's what it's going to do is it's going to attach a form and ask you to create that form right here inside of Google Classroom. It's kind of just integrating the Google Forms product inside of Google Classroom. And technically, if you create a assessment in Google Forms, you can go create assignment, add, and from your Google Drive, you could select the form right here. I created a blank quiz, for instance. I can select it from here and send out my assessment that way. So that is kind of an unnecessary button, but it's there because they want you to click and go, oh, I can make a quiz. and it's just going to redirect you back out to forms to make that quiz. So that's the purpose for it. All right. You can also create your topics ahead of time. So if you want to go in and create your topics and then do your assignments and then just select the topics you've already created, or as you create assignments, you can do it inside of there. So I want you to see, I'm going to go to my classroom that I've created for this school year. See what it looks like once you're populated with students and you're sending homework, just to give you an idea of what this kind of looks like for your students, for you as a teacher from your students. So in my logic section here, you'll notice I have a mix of assignments, the clipboard, and materials, this little kind of book looking icon. And so I have their textbook here. So this is their textbook, PDF of their textbook that I've sent to them. These are some video lessons that are created over the topics we're covering in these 3 lessons. So I have a combination of some videos that I uploaded of the material being taught. And then I have 2 YouTube videos that I put in here in this material over the videos that kind of review the material as well. So that's what's in here. And then underneath these notes are my slides that I created to present the material so the students can have the slides. And then here's the homework. In this case, there's nothing in the assignment because the students do the homework on their own document and submit it. So I didn't even give them anything, kind of like that first example I showed you. Our students know what to do. They'll go ahead and create and turn that in. And once they do, what you'll notice is I can see that I have 1 student who's turned this in and 22 who are still working on this assignment. So if I click on turned in, you can see this is the student's homework and they've turned that homework in already, and I can then click on their homework and review it. In this case, it's the PDF of the book itself, and then they annotated over top of that. So if I scroll through their homework, I will find their answers here. So I can go through and work on grading that. Okay. So that's what you'll start to see inside of Classroom as students start to turn in their work. You'll start to see that get populated. Then go back to classes. Go to a different class. Click on classwork. Now, I teach high school, so mine's not broken up into the different subjects like an elementary classroom would be. But I have each of my different chapters that we're covering. Okay. I just want you to see some different examples of things. This Dear Doug is a PDF assignment. These are questions that I put onto a document. So it's simply a document, and the students will answer the questions right on the document, and I made a copy for each student. These are videos. So they had to watch the video and fill in the document notes and or questions. And you'll see that here in some of these as well. So here's the video link. Here's the questions that they'll turn in. And so creating assignments is all about setting the assignment, setting the due date, uploading all the relevant information, and then you can come in here and as they in theirs will see the same thing, and there will have a button to turn that assignment in. All right, so that's the basics of getting assignments out to students. Couple of notes to be aware of in here, what's taking place, because we've done this all, and I want you to see what took place that you didn't see happen but did happen. If you go into Google Drive, you'll notice inside of my Google Drive here, and Google Drive is just cloud storage that is associated with your Gmail account, because you're primarily going to be using the Gmail account. If you have a G Suite for Education account, you'll have unlimited storage inside of your drive. If you're using a non-education, just regular Gmail, you have some limitations there to how much you can store in your Google Drive. But notice I have this folder that says 4th grade, and it has this little icon of the little guy there. That's a classroom icon. I did not create this folder, at least I didn't do it intentionally, but as soon as I created a class in Classroom, it created that 4th grade folder for me. When I open the 4th grade folder, notice that every assignment that I created has a folder. So here's the Bible lesson, the chapter 6 worksheet, the math worksheet. All of these things have now been placed in a folder. And when students turn the homework inside of Google Classroom, I can not only see it in Google Classroom, but it will now fill in all of their assignments inside of this folder and organize it for me. So this Bible lesson would actually say, whoever my student is, it would say Bible lesson Matt Smith, Bible lesson Sally Jones. Let me again go over here and let me go to my drive inside of my normal school account. And I'm going to go to my classroom. I have a lot in my drive, so it's not right in front of me. I'm going to pick my logic class. And there's too many to choose from. Let's try 2019. See if that narrows it. Whoops, I don't want to go there. I want to find the exact folder, not all the assignments right here. In fact, I can do it from here. Why am I doing all this? Right here it says, if I go to, I'm in my classwork, you'll notice it says class drive folder right here. And so I can just click here and it will open it right up. I don't have to search for it that way. And here's all my assignments for the year. And if I pick one of the assignments, so let's go all the way back to chapter 1 questions. Notice it places the student's name and then the name of that assignment, and it's all in the chapter 1 questions folder. So I can find all of the work that the students have turned in, and it's all pre-organized for me. So just note that's where they're putting all of those assignments. You can see them right here inside of the Google Classroom, but you can also see them in Google Drive. The other thing that it's doing is if you were to click on Google Calendar here, is on your calendar, it is posting all of your assignments. So every time you create an assignment, in fact, let me go to, because this one's really jumbled, let's go back to the class that we just created, our brand new class, and click on Google Calendar. And we should see, yes, we're good. We see our assignments for each of our classes. So there's our Chapter 6 worksheet. There's our Chapter 8 review, right? And it even has a link in that inside of the calendar now, so that when I click it, it takes me back to Google Classroom to the actual assignment. So your students will have a calendar in Google Calendar, and you as a teacher both, and it will populate with all of their assignments, so they don't have to create their own calendar to keep organized. They can just open their calendar, and all of the assignments will automatically be placed right there for them. So that's what Google Classroom is doing. It's organizing all of the documents that are going back and forth between you and your students. If students were in the middle of homework, so let me go back to my classes that I've created previously. Let me go back in here, right here. I'm going to go to chapter 14 questions. Let's see if this will work, if I can find somebody who has started them. I think, let's see where the student is at. So I don't see anything here, and I'm not going to search around and waste a bunch of time. But if Faith here, this student, had actually started the assignment and she hadn't turned it in yet, I would still see all of her work that she had done so far. And if I wanted to, I could actually go in here, since it's a Google Doc, which is the benefit of creating some assignments in Google Docs, is I could actually highlight part of the text and I could come over here and I could actually make a comment and I could give some direction. I would comment. So now Faith, when she comes to this assignment, she'll get a little notification and she could see my feedback. So if you're an English teacher and you're helping them with their writing, even before they've turned it in, you can go in and see what they're doing, make some comments, give them some help to get them going in the right direction. If a student is behind, you could, of course, send them an email, but you could also in here say, hey, you need to get moving on this. It's due such and such a time. So you can make those kind of comments in there. Also, once it's turned in, so I'm going to go to an assignment that's turned in. Let's go back in time. We got 16 that are turned in. Let's open the student's document. I can make private comments here. I can also highlight and make comments here. And then notice up here, I have the ability to return this to the student. And then depending on whether it's just returning it because I've graded it and I'm done with it, or the student could turn it back in. So you could do an editing process where you say, fix this and that and resubmit it. They could fix it, resubmit it, and you can do that as many times as necessary. Because what's happening again inside of Google Classroom is you created the document, you shared it with the student, so you created a document where both of you have rights and privileges to edit that document. The student turns it in back to you when they're done with it. They give up their editing rights, and so now it's your document alone to edit. And then when you return it back to the student, you now can both edit it again. And when they turn it back into you, so you're going back and forth between only you have permission and both of you have permission. And so you can do that process back and forth as many times as necessary, which is especially helpful in like an English classroom if you're going through the draft process or something like that and working with your students. So that's kind of a quick understanding of how that works. If we go all the way over here to the far right, that's not going to work because there's no one there yet. So let me do it in again in my classes. I will pick. If you go out here to grades, I just want you to know that it's here. I don't use the grades because we have a different grade book system in our school. So I don't use the grades in here really all that often. You'll see only one grade and it's a test. And the reason that grade is in there is because I set this up to auto grade. I didn't grade it personally, and then it auto submitted the grades into the grade book. Other than that, though, I take the assignment and I put the grade into my own grading book inside of our LMS, our learning management system. And so I don't use this, but I want you to be aware that it's here in case you would like to use it. So whenever you enter grades in an assignment, it will populate this, and there is some settings in there that you can manipulate as far as weighting assignments and doing all of that. And there's plenty of material out there to help somebody learn how to use it. So if you wanted to use this as your grade book, you could, but you're probably going to have to move it all over to whatever LMS your school is using if you use one. But it's here, so it's available. You can learn it and use it. And it's in front of you if you choose to do so. All right. This gives you an idea of what it looks like when it's not a elementary class. I have it broken up by chapters. So whatever chapter we're on, a student can click to get the material for that particular chapter. Notice what I did in this particular class, just to show you how much you can put into one particular assignment. The only assignment are these questions. All right. Everything else is all supplemental. So these are presentation slides. These are videos. So they've got all this supplemental material. Because we're now going to distance learning, I've got a lot more stuff to help them. So a lot more videos and stuff that I've uploaded. When I go to all topics, up here, I created two materials. One is our Quizlet study guides. So they can go there for all of the chapters. So I didn't put one for each individual chapter, though you could do that. You could choose to put a chapter 1 Quizlet, a chapter 2 Quizlet, or whatever other resource it is. In this case, I have a link. When they click on this link, it has all of the chapters, Quizlets, in one classroom that I've placed inside of there. So if you're familiar with Quizlet or whatever, you have another tool that you use online where you've placed stuff for your students throughout the school year already, you can put the link here inside of Google Classroom so them and their parents, so both of them can find it very easily. I put the entire textbook right here, created a PDF of it so they can access it now at home remotely. It's all right here. And I put those as material with no topic. So it's at the top of all of the topics. Then every topic here has all of the information for each particular chapter. Let's talk lastly, we've got just a few more minutes, and hopefully this is getting you into classroom, getting a little confidence. Let's talk about assessments. What are you going to do for assessments? So depending on your school and what they've asked you to do, you may have some directives that you're going to need to follow and do those things. But one way that you can do this at home is very simply, I don't have time to teach you how to use Google Forms from beginning to end, but there are tons of tutorials and videos out there. They're going to post the videos from the training I've done before in the summer. There's a section in there you can skip to it that will tell you how to make a quiz or a test inside of Google Forms. But I'm going to make one really, really fast. So you have an untitled question. You're going to add all the multiple choice answers. And then you're going to do that again, make another question with multiple choice and another question with multiple choice, right? These are obviously going to be test or quiz questions with multiple choice answers. All right. But the very first thing that I'm going to add up here, I'm going to click add. I want to add a, where do we go? A question that says name. So I want the student's name. That's going to be, notice it jumped and it's a short answer question. All right, then I want a question that says email. I want their email address. Okay, again, it automatically knows that that's a short answer question. Then I want a question. Here's the key, guys. I want you to get this part. Here's the key that you're going to want to do, a test key. What we're going to do is we're going to create a question that's a short answer question, short answer test key. And then I'm going to go into these three little dots here. I'm going to make this a required question, go to the three dots, and it's hard to see because I've got this thing. Let me do this really quick. See if that helps me. No, I still can't. There we go. I want response validation. Response validation. I'll do that again because I did that very, very quickly. It was trying to get rid of the other thing. So I want to go into a short answer, required, three dots, response validation. What this is going to do is it's going to say that unless they get the answer with the right information in here, then they can't continue. So they have to answer this question correctly or they can't keep going. And so I want to say that the text contains, and I'm going to pick whatever I want my test key to be. So I'm going to say this test key is going to be COVID-19. That's my test key. If you don't enter that, then you can't go on. Okay, so these should technically be the first three questions. So I can drag my questions all the way to the top. So I want their email address. We'll put that up there. Move that one down. I want to move their name towards the top. So let's get their name up here. Email address, name, and then test key. I want email, name, test key. Then I want to insert right here a section. What this is going to do is they call it sections, but on the test, if I go view this, the eyeball here lets me preview it. When I preview this form, I have blank quiz. Notice it says email address, name, and test key. Test key has this asterisk, which means it's required. Notice if I answer my email address and name, and I answer the test key wrong, ring, whatever, it won't let me go. It says it must contain COVID-19. You go, wait a minute, that doesn't help because now they know the test key. So when you create that short answer test key question, response validation, whoops, let's try it again. Response validation, why did it go away? I want text contains COVID-19, and then custom error text. Wrong answer. You need to put something in the custom error message. Otherwise, it will do what you just saw. It will give them the actual answer, and then they'll have the test key. You say, why are we doing this? We're doing this so that I can post that test for my students, but they can't get into it unless they have a test key. So I can tell them they need to request the test key before taking the test. Mom or dad will need to request the test key before they take the test so that mom or dad can proctor you taking your test while you're at home. And so if they get this wrong, now notice it says wrong answer. Until I get it right, it won't let me into that test. That's a way that you can set up a Google form to do an assessment that you can lock the students out of until the parents have the test key. The other thing that we're not going to get into, I'm going to just say it, but if you go up into settings, you can create a quiz. If you make this a quiz, you can then go in and choose the right answers, give the points, and it will grade it for you and then allow you to email back to the students their final grade, and you could check later after manual review. Again, check the other videos that'll be posted or look online at some more tutorials on how to build a assessment in Google Forms, but you can then post those right inside of Google Classroom. Once the parents are given that login key, they could use the key to take their assessment at home, and you will get the results that way very, very quickly and do it in a way that's safe to a degree because you have to at least have that key in order to get into it. You can also change that key as many times as you want. So once you've shared it with somebody, if you need to change it for the next day, you can do that as well. So that's not everything that goes on in Google Classroom, but that's a crash course to get you started about how do I create assignments, what can I do in Google Classroom, what's actually going on there, and hopefully that is a start to get you going in the right direction regarding using Google Classroom. That has been
Dr. Warren.
almost an hour, and I haven't breathed a whole lot.
This is Jeff Walton coming back in here. Dr. Warren, thank you so much for that outstanding presentation. We are going to open up for questions and answers. Matt Tiskus has been tracking questions in the chat, and he's going to ask questions. So he's going to direct this part of it. I am going to keep the recording going, and until we run out of steam here, if you have additional questions, then you can enter them in the chat. And after Matt gets through those that he's been tracking, then we'll move on to the next questions. Matt?
Okay, so Dr. Warren, some of these are going to be from earlier in your presentation. So hopefully you still have a little context for some of these.
Yeah.
This one was pretty early on. This one's pretty early on. It said, is there a certain way to sign up students for a Gmail email, or would it be the same process you would use to sign up for a regular email?
Yeah, they're going to need to go and just sign up for just type gmail.com and get their own Gmail account. Yeah, that's all they're going to, because as a school, you're not going to have time to sign up for G Suite, assign everybody a school issued setup and all that. Once you get it set up with their personal email, you're not going to be able to or want to go back and try to redo all the classes with now their school issued one. So basically, in the crisis, you need to send something out to your parents that says your child's going to need a Gmail account for us to function at full capacity here as best we can. So please get them signed up for a Gmail account, and you can give them the link, gmail.com, really straightforward. But basically, it's just a basic Gmail account. There's nothing special about it.
And if the school's already signed up for G Suite, they can also issue a school-issued one as well.
They could use their school-issued ones for sure. They could communicate with their parents. Here's all of your children's email addresses, and that whole setup. That's a whole other ball game. But yes, for sure, that would be ideal actually. If you already have G Suite, to distribute those email addresses to the students with their login information through the admin panel and all that.
Okay, here's a question that may be more of a legal question. So I think we ought to maybe answer this carefully, but am I violating copyright law if I create a PDF of a workbook page from a company?
Yes and no. For sure. I'm not a attorney, so I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do. But yes, you could be. So you need to be cautious of that. Many of the publishers, so BJ Press and I believe Pensacola as well, have made their e-textbooks available for free right now for schools that don't have e-textbooks. So you can contact those publishers and they'll give you e-textbook licenses for all of your students. So I know with BJ Press, and I believe I saw the same thing with Abeka. So some of those ones, and then I would just communicate with them. Hey, we're in the middle of this remote thing. We've purchased all of these workbooks, but our students are now not at school. We'd like to, through Google Classroom, put a PDF of them through, and we've done those communications. You know, you saw a couple of my textbooks, and the publishers have been, yeah, go for it, no problem. Especially you're at the end of the school year, you've already purchased the workbooks. Most of them have been pretty gracious to say, do what you got to do.
Okay. This one is from Michelle. Can you post personal videos from your phone?
Yeah, you can. I didn't get to that. If you go to the Google Play Store or even on Apple iPhone as well, there is a Google Classroom app. So you can load the app. You can see all your kids' assignments. You can post assignments. So if you create a video from your cell phone, you would be able to post that to Google Classroom right from your phone using the app, either there on an iPad or Android tablet as well. So they have those apps, mobile apps. So yeah, definitely.
Right. What about this question from Josh? Do students need something outside the Google Classroom to annotate the PDF?
Yeah, they're going to need some sort of PDF editor. The best one for schools is probably Kami, 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 and you'll want to check that out because they have, again, a free subscription for all of your schools and students right now during the coronavirus situation. So Kami, Kami, it's a weird sounding name. It's not CAMI, but KAMI. And then DocuHub or DocuSign or some other ones out there. There's lots of different ways that students can annotate PDFs. You don't care which one they use, but you might want to give direction as far as here's one you can use and put that out there for your families and students. But most people are, I should say most, and then I don't want to, I could be wrong. Most people are in the world that receive PDFs and know how to, annotate on top of a PDF, type their answers in and such. But yes, they're going to need something to do that with before they return the homework.
Okay, Debbie has this question. We do not have G Suite at our school. We have multiple teachers that teach the same group of students throughout the day and week. Is there a way for all teachers of a group of students to be admins on the same account?
Yep, I should have mentioned that. It's a great question. You can add extra teachers. So in Google Classroom, there's you go to the people section where we were at, where you could add students. You can also add teachers. So you can have multiple teachers. I don't know. Let me look real quick. Let me make sure of that. Yeah, you can. I was going to say, I know you can do it on the G Suite version. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a limitation. But yes, you can add as many teachers to a class as you want. So if you have a fourth grade class and for science class, the fifth grade teacher teaches science and you teach the histories and you take their students. So you could share the Google Classrooms for your classes and be a teacher on the fourth grade and the fifth grade or whatever, if you have multiple teachers, for sure.
Okay. Here's another question. Can you convert a personal classroom to a G Suite account when we get back to school?
No, that's not going to work. That's the negative right now. The good news is you'll be a lot better at it because you're getting practice early. But there's no way to convert a classroom. You could potentially, the only thing I could think of, and I haven't tried it yet, is you could add a second teacher, and it's really just adding yourself. So that might be able to do some of what you're trying to do. In other words, I have my personal account, and then I add a second teacher, and I add my new school account, so I could manage it from there. But it won't then, it's not going to connect that account to my school. It's just going to add me as a teacher, if that makes sense.
All right. If students do a math assignment, is there a way that students can submit an assignment that they did by hand rather than on the computer?
Yeah, they can use the mobile app and or their computers at home, depending on what they have, they can take a picture. You can upload a photograph as your homework submission. Students can really submit any kind of file. So an audio file, a video file, a slide presentation, a document, they can submit anything like that for a homework assignment. Our Michigan Association of Christian Schools Fine Arts Festival was canceled. And so when it was canceled, that was some of my students' last assignment was that presentation. So for their homework this week, before Friday, before tomorrow, they're going to videotape themselves doing their presentation at home and upload that video. So they can upload a video file. Other teachers, if you want, if they're doing some sort of crafting projects or things that are not the digital format, they could take a picture of it and submit it to you. So yes.
All right, and that's all the questions that I have tracked through the session. And let's see, here we go. Got some more coming in. Can students access all this from their cell phone? Some families don't have a computer, so
Yes, they can access it from their cell phone, and most of our students, we have school-issued Chromebooks. Most of our students, though, still access much of it through their phone until they have to do the actual work on the Chromebook. Typing a paper or essays and stuff like that on a cell phone, not as easily done. However, we have a lot of them that still even do that because they can use the audio to text features, and they actually will do that by audio. And then it converts it to the text for them, and then they go and clean it up. So yeah, they can do it from their cell phone as well. So you download the Google Classroom app to your phone, and they can see all their classes and all that.
I know this was a crash course, Dr. Warren, but is your school using Google Meet for anything?
We use Hangouts Meet. Yep. So very, very simple. In order to create a Google Hangouts Meet, all you need to do is go into Google Calendar. When you go into Google Calendar and you create a new appointment, you put something on the calendar. There's a little drop down if you go into the editing of that event that says add conferencing. If you click that, you click on Google Meet, Hangouts Meet, and it gives you a link. It creates the meeting and gives you a link. You can share that link with anybody, whoever. You don't have to only share it with people that you've invited to the event. I could post that link on an email or in Google Classroom and say, we're going to meet live at this time, and they get the link. Anyone who clicks on the link can jump in. We just did that last night, by the way, for our life group. Had some people log in, and we met as a life group using Google Meet. Our teachers are doing that all day long today. So for us, just for a how-to or what we did, the teacher's main instruction was all videotaped. So they videotaped their main instruction for the most part this week and next, and they posted those videos or are posting as we go along. And we have Google Meets just to answer questions, just to make sure everybody's up to par with what's going on. So our main instruction is not through the Hangouts Meet, because if a student can't be there, you can also record Hangouts Meets. Once you start it, you'll notice there's a little button down if you look for it on the right that you can record it. So our teachers will make themselves available, answer questions, have a quick meetup, and record that, and then post it back to Google Classroom so that anybody that wasn't there can go watch and see what took place and keep up to speed. So yes,
Okay.
great question.
All right. Is there a protective software / monitoring software you recommend for Chromebooks other than GoGuardian?
Other than GoGuardian, not really. I mean, that's our bread and butter. There's other ones out there, but that's the one that we're most familiar with on our end. There are several other companies. Blocksy does it, and Securely. Those are two other companies. They function very similarly to GoGuardian, but GoGuardian is the one that we use and recommend and are comfortable with. They now have even a parent app, so parents can access and see what's going on their students' devices and things. So, yep.
Follow-up question, do I need G Suite for GoGuardian?
Yeah, for sure. So the way GoGuardian and any of those other tools like that work is because the G Suite accounts are owned by the school then gets to dictate what students can use or not use, what they can do or not do while using those accounts on a school-issued device in particular. So when a student logs into their school-issued Chromebook, it forces some software. It's called an extension, but it forces that software onto the device that is now monitoring and filtering that device. You can't force that to a Gmail account that's a student's personal account. You can only do that on a G Suite account that you own as a school, that you are the have oversight of.
All right. And some folks are asking just about accessing the recording. We will post the recording. Of course, we can send it out, but we can also post it on our COVID-19 resources tab on the AACS website. And let me put a link to that here in the chat box. Are there any other questions for Dr. Warren? We want to make sure we grab all of those, because the recording is still on and it might be helpful to someone later. So this is a great time to type a question, but I believe I have caught all the questions that I saw in the chat box.
I'm going to post my email real quick in the chat. If anyone wants to send an email, I'll be happy to try to answer as I'm able.
And this is Jeff Walton jumping in here. So I've paused the recording because it seems like we've run out of steam here.